So you put in the work to plan and deliver a live webinar, but now no one's watching the on demand recording like you had hoped. Does this mean your great live training session has a short shelf life? What if you could use AI to ensure it gets more use over time? Welcome back to the AIQ Vodcast series. I'm your host, Michael Thiel. Today we're talking about how Learning AIQ has the potential to convert long-form content into usable learning deliverables with speed and precision. To guide us on our journey, I'm thrilled to be joined once again by Jeff Fissel, VP of Technology and one of the minds behind Content AIQ. How are you doing, Jeff?
I'm doing awesome, and thanks again for having me on. I've got AIQ all tuned up, and I'm ready to dig in with you.
Okay, Jeff, first of all, tell our viewers what we mean by long-form content.
Sure. Okay, it's one of the most common things that we have. We all are sitting in these hour-long meetings where we click record, and a lot of smart stuff is said during those meetings. A lot of presentations happen in hour-long increments, and they're recorded, which is great. But then no one ever goes and looks at those recordings again. So how can we start to get more value out of that? And that's what we're really talking about long form. The other thing I'll also say is some of that longer form, maybe e-learning content that we had, or instructor-led or VILT content also is really dense and rich and is great fuel for AI, which is what we're going to talk about today. So we're going to be trying to talk about kind of getting some of that digital dust off some of that old video content that we have. And I know we all have lots of it.
Oh, wow. I totally get it. I mean, talk about untapped potential. I mean, sure, I can imagine there's some great insight locked up in there, but like, who wants to scrub through all that, let alone convert it into fresh and engaging learning designs? I mean, sounds like a lot of work, let alone the budget implications.
For sure. That's one of the number one reasons why we developed AIQ, to quite literally unlock all that enterprise knowledge, often locked up in long form recordings with SMEs, intake meetings, you name it.
Okay, you've piqued my interest for sure. Can you give us a little demo of how AIQ can bring this type of long form content to life without, violating attorney-client privilege?
Of course, happy to share an internal example here. Just like many organizations, we have solution, connect, sales enablement type sessions where we have a lot of our SMEs present on these topics. So what I've done today is I've uploaded some video transcripts and presentations from our own internal sales enablement meeting recorded in Microsoft Teams into AIQ. I've used that data to create a knowledge base of trusted content. And then I've used our workspace feature to pull just the data from that to start to create some of these new types of derivative work.
Okay, so you mentioned a couple things there in terms of the workspaces, the knowledge base. What's the payoff of that?
Good question. The payoff here is that we can focus our Learning AIQ agents' powers only on this discrete data set to suggest derivative content. We'll get a much higher degree of precision and quality that we can trust. So really minimizing those hallucinations that everyone talks about.
Love it. Okay, so you've preloaded AIQ, you've created a workspace. I'm ready to see the magic happen.
Absolutely, let's do it. So my first question before we dive in, I'm curious, Mike, how often have you ever used the Cliff Notes for a book? It's okay to admit it.
Well, in a former life, eons ago, a lot.
Yeah, me too. And what we've realized, especially in this world where people have so much less free time to do this stuff, is we want to be able to get to those core substance. We want to still learn something. It's not a marketing piece of content, but how do we start to create what we're kind of referring to as instructional shorts, where I can get the core essence of what I need quickly, and then choose to dive deeper if I need to, or move on to something different. So that's what I'm going to walk you through here today is the workflow that we pulled together with a series of agents to help create these instructional shorts.
Sounds awesome. I'd love to see it.
All right. So let's walk through a couple of the steps here. And the first thing we did was we received the video, audio, and presentation materials from the presentation. We loaded that into AIQ as we talked about. We used a series of agents to understand that content, from reading the VTT and caption file to using the multimodal models to understand what was going on the slide content and in the video itself if there's demos. Then we took all that extra data and created kind of an enhanced transcript of that piece of content. So we not only had what was said, but we had what was shown as well. We then used a topic detection agent to determine what were the core weighted topics that were covered across this content. We didn't need to know all of them, but we needed to know the density. What were the heavy topics that were covered with weights? And then we used a summary agent to build kind of what were the key bulleted points, what were the key topics covered in each of the slides. We then took that, fed it into a script writing agent to build a quick script for what that was. And we built that in a series of scripts, of individual scripts. And then we used a reviewer agent to kind of bring that all together to make sure it told a cohesive story. Because a lot of times in these AI generated videos, it gets kind of off, it gets lost as you get into longer form content. And we wanted to make sure that it told a really good, compelling, interesting story. And we applied in that step tone and style as well to make sure it met our corporate kind of vision. We then, of course, added a human step where a human reviewed this storyboard that I'll walk you through here in a second so you could see what was viewed. We made any tweaks that were there. We then fed that data into a synthetic video tool like a Colossian or Synthesia that was out there. We generated that MP4 file and we were able to publish this. And all this happened in less than 2 hours of human work, less really, as we got efficient. And we're able to start creating and pushing this new content out. So to me, it's super exciting of how you can start to pull these agentic workflows together to benefit from some real value.
Jeff, my mind is spinning right now. Everything that you just mentioned in terms of that workflow and this refinement, it's almost like you're polishing a diamond or something by using the power of AIQ.
Yeah. Well, let me show you some of this here. So we'll start here by looking at some of the metadata that we generated. So when we were determining the topics, everything like that. So I loaded in this hour-long or 51 minutes piece of content in here, and it started to understand that. So what did we do? The first thing we did was to kind of detect the skills that were there. We went through the learning objectives of what was covered in that content, all this great data. We did some detection of who was speaking and what they were covering in that content. We broke down an outline of what was covered at specific moments in time inside that content. So you can see this kind of deep understanding of what was going on. We built FAQs about what was covered in that content. So again, you start to see this. The topics, again, that I was talking about here, here's the topics with the weighting of what was covered in these moments. So we took all this data and then we applied it and said, hey, we want to build that storyboard. So what does that look like? We took the slide content here where it took the actual slide that the presenters presented, and it used AI to generate the talking points for each slide, and then also generate that script that was read. Now, we could be a little old fashioned like this, and we could choose to read this, but in this case, we fed this into a synthetic video tool. So as you scroll through here, the humans reviewed the talking points and the sample scripts. We made sure this was good. And then when we're done, we click the export button, and what is generated is a video with audio of this presentation. And this took what was an hour-long presentation boiled it down to 11 minutes of content so that we can really start to get some value out of that.
Jeff, my head is spinning. It's blown off. That is amazing. Jeff, this was a great example. That's all I can say. Thank you so much for showing us how to unlock our long-form content using the power of Learning AIQ.
It's my pleasure, Mike. Let's do it again soon.
Absolutely. And viewers, thank you for tuning in for this AIQ adventure. For more great learning insight, be sure to subscribe to the GP Strategies YouTube channel and give us a thumbs up if you enjoyed the video. Thanks and have a great day.